Okay, let's get on with the big story from the Nigerian Stock Exchange and the London Stock Exchange, the dual listing conference taking place. It's the 5th edition of that taking place in Lagos as we speak. Let's cross over to downtown Lagos here, Nigeria's financial capital, to get Oscar Onyema, who is the CEO of the NSE, to give us a few minutes of his time, pulling him out of the conference room to discuss this very important meeting where Nigeria is now continue to seek a cross-border listing with one of the largest exchanges in the world. That's the LSE group. Within the group, it's not just about listing, but you can also do initial public offering and further offerings, which we've seen at least 3 Nigerian companies done. Let's get Oscar in here into this conversation. Good morning, and it's good to have you here on the program at this time, Mr. Onyema.
Good morning.
Thank you. We appreciate the fact that you're able to pull out of the conference room to give us a few minutes. Bring us up to speed. This is the 5th edition of this handshake between Lagos and London exchanges. Why is this handshake very crucial in terms of dual listing?
It's been a very positive partnership between the Nigerian Stock Exchange and the London Stock Exchange. As you know, we've collaborated to drive dual listings. The most recent set of dual listings being the $3 billion Eurobond, sovereign Eurobond that was listed both in Lagos and London. We also have the diaspora bonds, the $300 million diaspora bond. A few corporates, and on the equity side, obviously, Seplat is the biggest one. The pipeline is rich. That's concrete results from a listing perspective. From a capacity building perspective, it's also been very positive. This conference, this is the 5th edition of the conference that we're holding, and the meeting room is, filled to capacity, and there are a lot of people that are interested to learn more about how we can drive, how we can, if you will, accumulate capital to deploy to the domestic economy. Certainly, there's a shortage of capital, to drive some of the developmental things that we need to get this country to where it needs to be.
Well, the headline for this conference is dual listing. Explain why is this important? What is the Nigerian Stock Exchange seeking to secure from the LSE group?
So the theme for the conference is really attracting global capital to drive Nigeria's economic reforms and sustainable growth development. It is a partnership, so there is something in it for both parties. And the idea really is to jointly develop African markets and help corporates that are seeking international funds to do so in such a way that they continue to remain true to their domestic identity, therefore listing domestically in Africa, and then as well as accessing international funds. And as you know, the London Stock Exchange is one of the most international exchanges globally. So that is the combination that we think will create a lot of value for governments and corporates that are looking to access international funds.
Are there other Nigerian companies seeking to list on the London Stock Exchange?
Like I said, the pipeline is quite strong. There are a number of large corporates. Obviously, at the end of the day, it depends on whether it makes sense for your corporate, right? So if you're a large corporate that wants to diversify your ownership base, that wants to get in international money, that wants to increase your branding globally, then it may make sense for you to pursue this route.
Dangote Cement is being reported to be looking at a London IPO and possible LSE listing. Are you aware of that as the primary platform where the Dangote Cement is currently listed?
We usually don't comment on the listing pipeline. because it is really influenced by a number of things. And so, if you don't mind, I think the right party to comment on this is the company itself, Dangote Cement. Having said that, as you know, Dangote Cement is the largest listed company on the Nigerian Stock Exchange, and we work very closely with them to help to support their growth ambitions across the continent. And so we are engaging to make sure that whatever decisions and strategies they want to deploy to drive their growth, that the exchange is there to support that effort.
In terms of how the Nigerian Stock Exchange moves forward in terms of demutualization and all of that and expanding globally, is this relationship with the London Stock Exchange going to fast track your demutualization plans?
No, this has nothing to do with demutualization, actually. It is an effort to jointly develop the market and help catalyze the growth of African corporates that are looking for international funding.
But what are the participants saying this morning? You've been at this conference for now about 2 hours or 2.5 hours. Are there specific questions or interests with the LSE group that would want you, as the Nigerian Stock Exchange chief, to help midwife?
Sorry, can you say that again?
This conference started about 2.5 hours ago. So, with the participants in the room, are there specific areas in which they would want to work with the London Stock Exchange using the Nigerian Stock Exchange, where you're the CEO, as a midwife?
We have covered a number of areas so far in the 2 hours that we've engaged in the conference, including the state of play with regards to the global economy and the Nigerian economy, some of the achievements that have been recorded from the partnership, both from myself and from the CEO of the London Stock Exchange. And we've also heard from the chief negotiator for Nigeria on some of the details around the Africa Continental Free Trade Area and some of the nuances that services, especially financial services sector, need to bear in mind. So we're now discussing corporate governance, and in all of this, there's always behind our backs, behind our minds, the need to meet international global standards. So to that point, I'm sure there's a lot that can be brought to the table, not just from the London Stock Exchange, but from all the participants in the room, including the Nigerian Stock Exchange.